probably already noticed that we're in a little bit of a different kind of a physical space. It might be a logistical nightmare for you, Mike, to record us. Hopefully that it'll be okay as far as sound and everything goes. But our purpose was to just kind of look at things a little bit different in hopes that it elicits engagement. Because it's really all about, the information that you all are providing to us, and not necessarily about how we are up in the front of the room and behind the podium. It's more about discussion, conversation, hearing about, what you guys have to say. So the all staff, we kind of want to look at it a little bit differently. And we've been talking to leadership about, what's the purpose really of these all staff meetings. And, we all agreed, I think most of us agreed, that the purpose is really to have conversations, to talk about things. Hello, welcome, come join us. Circle. So really it's about feeling a little bit more connected to the process. So we set up this room so that we can kind of see each other and that we can engage with one another a little differently, and really so we can start to have some conversations, because that's really what it's all about. And not just, we want you to feel comfortable in the space. We want you to be able to ask questions and not just Ken asking questions. Well, I don't not to put you on the spot, Ken. But yeah, it is. So maybe just a little change like this might help us a little bit in terms of that. It might take us a little while, we might need a couple bumps, but hopefully it does. Welcome, guys. So, right now, as far as
on this side of the room.
All right. Welcome to the party. So right now, our leadership team is really focusing on 3 things. Just 3 things. Not to overwhelm us, but they are 3 very, very important things. The first thing is Joint Commission preparation. We know they're coming. They're coming, what do we think, Brandon, next week?
Possibly,
Week after?
Possibly next week, the week after that.
Yes.
Well, 3-week window here where they can pop in and see us.
Yeah, so is there anything you want to share with the group as far as Joint Commission goes?
Well, just that we, the QA department is actively still doing, chart reviews and tracers, and, that an email went out this week about a chart review, and I just wanted to clear the air a little bit. Chart reviews and tracers are to prepare us for a Joint Commission. They are to better prepare the units, better prepare the hospital, and, in finding things and identifying things that can be improved for the good of the hospital and before Joint Commission comes. Nothing comes out of a tracer or a chart review that should be, that staff feel, is going to be used against them or for discipline or anything like that. Everything that we do is for the betterment of the hospital to prepare us for Joint Commission. So that is the goal of everything the QA department does. It is not to, cite somebody and, as it's put in an email, put them on blast. That is not the point of what we are doing. We are attempting to improve things here, and so, we're not going to change what we do. Everything will continue as it is, and we hope to improve the quality of care here, and that may be, improve charting, improve treatment plans, improve everything that we do. The big thing that staff need to be aware of, I would say, is just that, monitor ligature risks, make sure we are able to talk about physicians, nurses, everybody be able to talk about ligature risks. The patient safety program that we have at Heartland, everything that goes involved with the patient safety program is included in the QA-PI plan, which is on the intranet. So we have a patient safety program that everybody should be aware of that is, openly talked about, and all the tracers that go on. And then, any improvement actions that each unit is doing and the hospital is doing. We have a big, the big thing is the SNR reduction and injury reduction program that we have. We have seen really positive results in that. When we look at assaults and seclusion restraint and patient injuries over, since this has started in February of 2018, if you look at 2019 compared to 2018, we're about half of where we were with seclusion restraint episodes. The graphs are up, they're on everybody, should be on everybody's boards. We have a steady decline in the past year and a half for seclusion restraint. Our assaults have declined not as steady as the seclusion restraint episodes, but we are, that's something to hang our hats on.
So it's a very stressful time for all of us. I think that, it's important. You guys do a great job every day. And so they ask a question you might not know the answer to. That's okay. They're there to educate us. They're there to guide us. They're there to show us best practices. And, they want us to be the best that we can be. So go back, talk to your staff. I mean, if they want to see a surveyor, hey, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to look into that and get back to you. That's okay too. They understand that it's a stressful experience. So it's okay. Anything else you want to? So that's number one.
We'll look for them on Tuesday morning, or we'll look for them the following week. So I know Dr. Med's ready and prepared, so.
We're ready.
I need to be ready. New couple.
This is your first experience as a medical director.
Yes.
So
Even, I know they're talking about the chart reviews, even, everybody has areas for improvement. Dr. Christie and I talked to Dr. Med a little while ago about some things that needed improved that we found for Dr. Med. So not everybody has areas for improvement. We're all going to work towards that. I don't know what he was talking about. Take a mic away from him.
Thank you. So that's the first thing that we're working on. Second thing is capital projects. We have a big capital project coming. And it starts officially next Tuesday, is actually when the contractors will be on site. Do you want to give us a little, Doug's on here, do you want to give us a little?
Yeah, the unit renovation project, that starts on the 28th, that's Tuesday. And that's subject to change just in case the Joint Commission does show up. All of our contractors will go home during that week of survey. Then they would start up the following week. But right now, we have them set to come in on Tuesday, 28th. That's when they'll start mobilizing, bringing in their tools to start demoing D-Data 2. Once D-Data 2 is done, they'll move to D1. Our elevator project, we're still probably about 3 to 5 weeks out on that project. Hopefully we wrap that up here shortly. And the safety security project, we just had a pre-bid meeting on Tuesday regarding that project, so hopefully we get some competitive bids in and get a good contractor.
So there were some staff questions about the capital project. Elizabeth Harris has been forwarding to me, and I asked Brenda to place it in the announcements. So if you have questions or you're hearing, that you need information, let us know so that we can share whatever information, whatever questions, get back to you. We'll open the announcements, we'll make sure that people understand. Actually, Shane got some prints for us, and Bob posted them on the HPH intranet. So if you haven't seen them yet, check them out because it will show you the nursing station design. It actually will show you the color palette and the choice of design that's going to go on the privacy windows as well. So, and it'll say that the units. So check that out. It's really very nice. And again, the capital project is really focusing on safety. So we're increasing our line of sight, we're increasing our visibility, we're opening up some spaces. We're also still going to have some retreat areas. We're going to move medication rooms to a consistent location over by the day hall, so on all the units it will look that way. We're going to design 2 comfort rooms for our C units, so C2 and C1 will have comfort rooms on our acute units. We're going to address some of those ligature risks that are out there. So we have door hinges, door handles, door frames. We've got all kinds of ligature risks that we want to address with this project as well. And then the bathrooms are going to be completely renovated. So in conjunction with those things, because the budget couldn't cover everything that we wanted to do, unfortunately, our maintenance department is in there. We're going to do some contracted work. So we're going to be painting, replacing carpet. So when you go back into that space, it's going to gonna look nice. It's gonna look significantly different. It's gonna make a difference. And you know, I've always said that the environment is the first form of therapy for our patients. I still believe that. And so, you know, going into a brand new space is gonna be, it's gonna be wonderful. We're also putting bathrooms in the backs of the nurses' stations for some of those units that didn't have them. So, which
C1, C2.
C1 and C2. So that's nice too, because I think the bathroom was outside in the hallway. Which never really made sense, so.
Or just knock on the door while you're in there.
Done yet?
Is there any questions about any of that, what's happening? If there's any more information that needs to be put out there, please let me know. Send an email to Brenda. We'll put it out in the announcements. We'll make sure that staff understand. There'll be some moving a little bit because, you know, we're going to take about 12 to 14 weeks to do the first unit, then we're going to move down to D1. So we'll have a little bit of disruption, so we need to really talk to each other. We have to communicate. Because when we're doing bathroom work upstairs, it's going to affect 2 rooms downstairs. So we're going to have to vacate those rooms. So it's going to be a little bit of a juggling act and good communication to get through those rooms. So we're going to have to move some patients around. So we want to make sure that everybody's at the table, that we're talking about it, that we know in advance that it's happening, and that, you know, the information's there, especially for your clinical nurse managers to share with the unit staff. It's very important. Are there any questions about the capital?
Well, not really a question, but I think this may have been an oversight on all of us our part. When we talk about the comfort rooms on the acute units, D1, D2, they have acute. So somewhere when it's done, we have to find a way because we yearn for that comfort room. We just need to save a lot of things. So it might not go in now, but I think when it's all done, we should be looking at how can we accommodate that because we're pretty active.
Yeah, the unit designs, the D units don't have as much space also as the C units, so we're a little more limited. But absolutely, we can look at how we're using space and how we can use it differently on those units. And I think even when the project started, it was prior to the reconfiguration even, before we changed some of the acuity levels around. So we're always changing, and that's okay. And if it's not in this project, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It means that we have to look at it down the road. Thank you, Dr. Any other questions about the capital?
Yeah, just for clarification, the safety security, is that the key?
That's the rekeying of the facility and access control.
So that one's big because we won't be taking keys home anymore. So start to think about how that would affect you and how, you know, it's obviously it's safer, but it also affects flow when you're walking into the building every day and how that's going to be set up. You know, we want to have different kiosks available. They're really quick as far as making sure that the keys come out, but when we start to progress in that project, we'll make sure that you have all of the information that you need. Because there'll be some concerns, you know, everybody's concerned about being late, and we'll make sure that we have a nice solid plan for you and that there are available options. But the key to that is that we're not taking keys home with us at the end of every day. And also, we're going to have some card access areas, so that's going to be nice for heightened security. So if someone were to inadvertently get a hold of keys, that we've built in mechanisms to prevent them from actually leaving the facility. So you would actually have to card access or keypad access before getting out. So if a patient were to get a hold of keys, they wouldn't be able to make their way throughout the entire facility. They may only be able to make their way through certain areas. So there's a lot of
So the process with me is all state employees will be issued a fob bracelet. That fob bracelet will get you into the one door floor. That will be able to get you to the key kiosk. You punch in your code for the key kiosk and get your keys. Now you have your bracelet as well as your key kiosk that will get you through the facility.
Shane, does that mean that it'll just be, you only can come in one door?
It's still one door floor. You still be able to come in one door floor. And when you're leaving, what you'll do is you'll enter your code, open the kiosk, put your keys back, and now you'll have to enter your numeric number to exit the building. Sound like
And this will
Bob?
be like even if you go on break or lunch too, you'll have to do the
Yes.
same thing, right?
So the keys are never allowed to go out?
No.
So it'll be a change for us. but it's okay. It's for the better, and, you know, we'll work through the kinks as we have.
So our plans is, in the beginning of the project, to have, talk with Locksmith, have him start creating a key matrix for us. So we know what every employee here at Heartland knows, what keys they need. We'll have those keys made up, placed in the actual key box. So when they start changing around out cores throughout the hospital, staff already have their keys ready to go. They may have to carry around 2 sets at times, but we'll get through that.
Any other questions about
So
that?
you give your own keys every day?
Yes.
You'll have your own little spot.
Okay.
Because they're all different and unique depending on what your office is, where what you have access to.
That's what I was.
It'll be tailored.
Now, are we doing the thumbprint for the kiosks, do you remember, or are we doing the?
Keep on.
And so you would put in your pin, and only your key will light up that you can take out. The rest of the keys will be still locked into the key box that you can take.
What's that now?
So when you put in your pin, you open the door, there'll be a light that comes on that cabinet to let you know what keys you need to take.
You can't take all of your keys?
It could be your key set, it could be your key set.
Not just one hand.
So we'll do one at a time. It's built a key set. Yes, every morning, every night.
I have one other question. When I went out at lunchtime, I noticed the parking lot's all roped up. Are we still gonna be able to park out back as long as we stay outside of those?
As long as you stay out of those.
Or are we gonna be in the way of big trucks or something coming in?
No, that'll be fine. He roped it off because that area is specific to the contractors that are coming in, right, Shane?
Yes.
That is-
Yep.
The monster
That was my
truck
understanding.
Shop trailers.
park right under the foot.
So, okay, are there any other questions about capital projects or anything that I've mentioned yet? The third item, before I go into the third item, as far as the structure of the golf staff, we are going to take the show on the road. So we're gonna go on second shift and we're gonna do this again, and then we're gonna do it again on third shift. So, we'll give it maybe 2 weeks so that they can have an opportunity to view however this worked on video, because it's probably not working very well, but in case they have any questions about what we talked about, and then we'll just kind of try to engage staff on the other units too. I wanted to mention that. But the third area that leadership is focusing on is our culture of safety. And Ben and Stephanie are going to share with us some results of our recent survey. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys to take this here. Play your safety music.
Turn it off. For those of you who do not know, we put the Culture of Safety survey results on the internet that is accessible to everyone. These are the 2018 results that are here. A couple of things about this particular survey. It is distributed annually, but the state doesn't necessarily give it to us distributed on a specific date. So I don't know exactly what month the next survey will come up this year, but they'll tell us. And it is anonymous. Some feedback from some staff from the other hospitals thought that it wasn't, but we don't see who completes what on here unless you say, my name is so-and-so in the comment section or anything, whatever. But so it is anonymous. We don't know who it is. It's the only survey that we have that is the voice of the staff regarding safety. I don't know of any survey capture that we are actually doing to capture this type of information. So it is required by the state that we do it. Our results are compared to, and you'll see in another chart, to other RPHs, region government hospitals. And the data is held in an entity called the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. So when you see the next chart where you see those results in government service, that's coming from that data holding unit. Joint Commission can inquire how we communicate results and respond to this survey. They did this at North Coast. I believe it's Toledo they made that.
This is a big, big push for the Joint Commission. They want to know what you're doing as it relates to your culture of safety. They'll ask a lot of questions, and so we're still kind of growing in this area. We're starting here with sharing of information, but we've got a lot of work to do, but I think that this is something they're going to ask you, so start to think about, at least today.
Right. And this just goes over what the purpose of the quarterly report is, comparing it to the hospitals, any data to facilitate assessment and learning if there needs to be supplemental information, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, which is what we've been doing actually with the survey, and also trending to describe any changes in the patient safety cultures that we do. And what we're also doing, which is not on here, is that we have a committee that looks at our inpatient consumer survey. We're going to compare that data, which is the patient's view of safety and other things, to this that's here. To kind of see if there's any correlation or not regarding that. So this committee is there as well. The response demographic, and this isn't a question that came up before. If you look at that, if you can see that under Q52, that's the number of people who answered that they typically have direct interaction or contact with the patients. This will come up in another slide, but we had a total of 125 respondents here, and we were at 248 in 2018. So that's about 50%.
In 18? No, not 248,
246. Because they had a percentage rate of 50.4% that we had in terms of response, which is good because we only had like 89 respondents in 2007. So for those who wondered, because this is a question that a lot of the people from another hospital ask, they may feel like they're not fully engaged with patients to be able to fill out this survey appropriately. And we don't control the questions that are there, although when we met with the deputy director, when we were introduced to her, there may be open to changing some questions. But I know that's some feedback from other hospitals that they feel like it doesn't pertain to them.
We use the survey that is recommended by the Joint Commission.
So this is our response rate, and the state's goal was 60% for 2018, and we hit 50. We did a pretty good improvement from last year, but you'll see that 4 of the entities are the one that broke at 60%, and the rest of them didn't. So, next year, certainly our goal is to increase our response rate. I don't know if it's going to be 60%. I suspect they're going to keep it that way. Certainly open to ideas and how we encourage people to do and complete this survey because it is important. It is the voice of the employees. So
what we talked about in leadership was, how we're responding to these things.
Yes.
And really emphasizing it because these are valuable. And if the staff see that we are answering and responding and taking action, those are ways that would elicit more responses in the future. So hopefully that'll help us to get more.
So the way the survey is organized, all of those questions that you answer, they all fit into a set of domains. And there are 12 domains. And those domains that are listed: teamwork within units, supervisor manager expectations, organizational learning, management support, feedback and communications, frequency of events, overall perception, communication, teamwork across units, staffing, HR. Handouts and transitions, and non-punitive response to error. We'll talk about this later in a couple of other slides, but if you are heading committees or you are involved in ones, take a look at those domains and see which ones you think may pertain to your area. Because the survey results that I put on the internet are broken down by those domains, and you can see the responses. This may not be easy to see, but I have a printout of that. That's also on the survey results on the internet. This looks at our performance compared to other hospitals, RP agencies, and agencies. And there are 2 areas that we're looking at, and it'll come up in the next slides. But this is why I encourage you to look at the results, because you can see how we work compared to other hospitals. The percentage means it's an approval rating. So think of it as A, B, C, D, but that's basically what it is. It's a percentage of those people that respond to that positively. So number 2 and item number 12 are the ones we're focused on, and I'll explain it.
So in
Or Stephanie will explain that, I'm sorry.
So in 2017, our survey, we, in the area of, we had 70% approval rating in the domain 2, which is supervisor manager expectations and actions promoting safety. So it was 70% approval, saying that we were doing a good job. Then in 2018, it went up to 75%. So we improved in that domain over the year. So this was the highest of all of our sister facilities and also higher than statewide. So that's an area where we're doing a good job of promoting and expecting safety. So that was the good news. Now
Those are the questions
okay.
in particular that pertain to that domain.
Right, so those are questions like my supervisor or manager says a good word when he or she sees a job well done according to established patient safety procedures. Questions like my supervisor or manager seriously considers staff suggestions for improving patient safety. Or whenever pressure builds up, my supervisor manager wants us to work faster even if it means taking shortcuts. So that's an example where a disagree is a good answer. My supervisor manager overlooks patient safety problems that happen over and over. And again, that's one where a disagree means that we're doing a good job. So those 4 questions together compose the 75% rating that we have for how well we're doing in that area and in that domain.
If the Joint Commission comes in and we show them these results, the question, they'll ask, why are you doing well? What is it that we're doing that makes this rating the way that it is? And if we can get to a point of being able to articulate whether there's some initiatives that we're doing or some processes that we're doing that contribute to this, that we've said before, how do we tell what we're doing right? We can always say what we're doing wrong, but how do we say what we're doing right?
And like Andrea had said, we want to have dialogue. And so hearing from you about, what you're observing, about what's working is really positive because we obviously want to do more of what works. So this domain 12, non-punitive response to error, is an area where we have room for growth. That was our lowest scoring area. The 2017 survey, the approval rating in this domain was 37%. We went down to 20% this year. That includes questions such as staff feel like their mistakes are held against them. There were a majority that either agreed or strongly agreed. Number 14, when an event is reported, it feels like the person is being written up, not the problem. And again, that was a majority that either agreed or strongly agreed. And question 18, staff worry that mistakes they make are kept in their personnel file. And that was the majority agreed or strongly agreed. So those are the type of questions that, we're hearing essentially from the survey that our system of recording errors or mistakes has a punitive feel to that.
And I can add, this is something that all of the RPHs are getting hit off, and I don't want to minimize our ability to address it here, but it is something across the board. This was low rating for everyone, all of the RPHs. So, our actions involving this is making the results available on the intranet. This is an action item that we're doing right now, and communicating these results. And certainly, if there's any feedback, incorporating the survey results into existing committees is applicable. What we have been doing, Stephanie and I, is bringing the culture of safety survey results to the committees that we're involved in, and seeing which ones, if the survey is applicable to them, and to make that a part of what they may address or make a recommendation to leadership, you know, from the actual particular committee. So we're integrating that into the committees as we speak right now.
Time doesn't permit us to go through all of the different domains and all of the questions involved in each domain. However, the PowerPoint and the list, all of the information is on the intranet, so please take a look at that and give us feedback. See which ones apply to committees or activities that you're involved in. And if you want more specific information on the responses or the results of those questions, see how they can be implemented into what you do in that particular committee, that would be great. We want feedback too on our system of mistakes, the Domain 12, feedback on, part of it may be our instant reporting system, but there's a variety of reasons why we may have scored low in that area, so we want to hear and we need to hear from all of you on how we can improve.
Which is a good segue because we talked about handing off to HR in terms of how we engage employees to give feedback on these particular surveys. So if anybody has any questions regarding the culture of safety survey?
No, I think that that's been a common theme for some time in this organization, and that employees have fear of reprisal and the incident reporting process and all of that. I think there's opportunity for us to kind of take a look at things differently, because we want to get away from that, and especially with the incident reporting process, because it's not intended for those purposes. It's for us to improve, and it's often villainized. And so we've some work to do in this area, I think, but I'm not at all surprised by this, because it's certainly something that I think our staff have been saying, and we've been seeing for some time. So it's all about, now what? How do we take some steps to change that? So, Eva, you want to talk to us about what we do?
Yeah, so, you know, to tie all of this into a title, you know, we talked, and you might hear Andrea talk about a high reliability organization. And part of that is there are 5 traits to a high reliability organization, and that's some of the things that you guys identified in the survey, and that's about the sensitivity to operation, what's working and what's not. To de-stigmatize failure, because through mistakes and failure, we develop best practices. That whole listening part, you know, listening to the people that do the work, and do that by visiting their workstations and not, like we set this up to be informal, so it's not this formal thing, but a relaxed way to engage people, to listen to what's working and what's not. That's just referring to them as experts. They're the ones that do the job every day, and so a lot of times the solution lies with the people that do the work every day. And so that's what we're hoping to move towards, is listening more to those people and not just this top-down, you know, this is what we've decided, this is what we need you to do. But when we have opportunities to engage people, we need to take advantage of that. And then the final piece is resilience, and that's the whole leadership part. Us developing a leadership tool, leaders should be assessed and evaluated just like employees. So how effective am I as a leader? And it's about a 360 evaluation of a leader. And not only telling people what to do, but letting people know the why behind what they do. And so there's a couple people that might be in this room that worked with me about 2 years ago to develop the mission, vision, and values. And they used to be up here.
They're behind the screen.
Right. And so every time I would look at it, you know, I get discouraged, because we worked really hard and we haven't really been effectively connecting what we do to those values that we say we espouse to. And so that's part of this. So the purpose for the employee engagement is more than just you answering the series of questions that are listed in the culture of safety, but it's to drill down more into what you want for your career and your future. And so the way the survey is going to be set up is we're not going to ask for any identifiers. I don't want to know what department you work in. I don't want to know your discipline. I just want some answers to some questions. So there are 7 domains in this survey. Leadership, enablement, do you feel empowered to do your job? Alignment, what we're doing, how does it align to the mission and the values? Your development. In HR, when we have people leave, one of the biggest responses that we get for why people leave is because they say there's no opportunity for development. And so that's an initiative that we need to look at and take on, because development doesn't always mean that you have to be promoted. Development is an opportunity to learn something in another field if you're interested, or to be exposed to something another person does. And sometimes when we get exposed to what people do, we have an appreciation for those individuals, because sometimes people a lot of times, people that do their jobs well, they make it look easy, but when you really get down to it, it's about organization and their ability to manage. So support, relationship management, your work environment, and then there will be 3 open-ended questions for you to expound on anything more that you might want to. We're going to post these on in the announcements and on the intranet, and I have a timeline here for this survey. So we've already finalized the survey questions on April 30th. This is the beginning of the marketing to get the word out. We're going to post it, and I have the link to send to everyone to be able to participate. And again, I'm not going to get the results. It's going straight to central office. They'll tabulate it, and then they'll send it back to me. And then we'll analyze the data around June 21st. And then we're going to do what Ben and Stephanie are doing with this culture of safety, and that's present the results, kind of highlight the areas that we are doing well in, and then focus on the areas that we need improvement on, and develop an action plan. And so this is the beginning of how we choose and want to begin to engage the staff, to hear from the staff, so that we can move the organization to this high reliability organization.
So, like, he was talking about high reliability, transparency and communication are critical, they're key. And that's the direction that we want to go in. And so, I'm pretty excited about this engagement thing. I want to get staff involved. How do we do that? I mean, do we enlist some competition? Do we offer incentives? And sometimes incentives are just temporary, but just to get staff to come take the survey. I mean, if you have ideas about what would get people involved, do we bring them to the units, pass them out somehow? I mean, because I really want us, the entire state's going to do this. So Heartland's the pilot, and we're the first ones, and I was excited about being the first one, because I really want to know how we can engage staff here and what we can do better and different. So if you have some ideas about how we can do that, let us know. Let me know right now if you do. But, because we want to get everybody involved. We really want to know, because we can't fix it if we don't know.
And so what you guys would do today, that those of you that are here, once we put this out in the announcements, if you could remind your peers to complete it, it's another opportunity for your voices to be heard, and then for you guys to hold us accountable to what we say we want to do. And I know most people might have kids in here, but I would tell my kids all the time, when you go to school, part of holding your teacher accountable is going to school prepared with your homework done, so you can ask questions. So again, if you want your voice to be heard, voice your concerns, and then hold us accountable to move this organization towards this high reliability that we're talking about. So that's a way for you guys to hold us accountable.
Any questions? I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mike to our team here at Heartland. Mike is our new safety officer. Stand up. Usually Ken does it, but
You want me to play safety dance for you?
Yes.
My music.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? Want to ask questions? Something on your mind? Something pressing? I mean, I might not have the answer, but get back to you.
Just getting back to the QA piece. Ever since we were within our window for survey, it seems like everybody's running around with their hair on fire. Do we do tracers and chart reviews year-round, like a monthly type thing or even a weekly type thing? So as soon as we identify areas of correction, we can correct them instead of waiting, once every 3 years?
You want an honest answer, Ken?
Absolutely.
The answer is no.
Okay.
This hospital did not do that on a normal basis.
Okay.
That will change. That changed May of 2018. And since then, this will be an ongoing thing. Tracers, chart reviews. One of the doctors said the other day, Brandon, you're going to be real happy when Joint Commission leaves. You won't have to come to do this and do tracers. And I said, that doesn't sting. That's, this hospital was not used to that.
Right.
Prior, years ago, that was a normal, common thing. That was not the case the past few years. That will change. That is changing. And will continue.
And part of that too, I always got to plug HR and training. Part of that is completing mandatory training and doing employee evaluations. And so I want to say too, if we truly want to engage employees, part of engagement starts with an evaluation. A fair sit down with an employee to tell them where they are. So if you're not doing performance evaluations and then you expect people to engage in a survey, let's look at that. So again, it's about holding us accountable. So if I haven't done an evaluation of my employee, and then I want to encourage them to participate in this survey, we have to do all the things that we're supposed to do on a regular basis.
Anybody other than Ken? Now I said, it can't just be Ken. One more. Nothing. That's okay. It takes some time. We'll get there. Eventually, you're all going to be like asking questions.
Josh is usually good for a question, and I've been in committees with him. Put him on the spot. You're on the spot.
I have a longer drive than I used to, so if I'm running late and I have whatever this bracelet is, does it get me through both doors, or is there a big kiosk in between the doors? Is there enough room in there? And can the 5-minute window change, or is that a state thing?
Yeah, I knew that was going to be a concern.
Very good.
The wrist is really quick, and it'll get you through both doors. And we'll get you to the kiosk, all of that, correct?
That's correct.
So it's just a simple, put your hand up to it, get through the door. It's actually going to be faster than your key
Right.
getting into those doors.
Since the
And then
key's done all the
saw,
work, too.
like the system worked to open the kiosk, and that's fast too.
It's quick.
It's fast.
So what would be nice then if that kiosk can actually sign you in?
Yeah, you just swipe the door and it's like,
Yeah,
right here.
we wanted that. They don't interface. The systems didn't interface for us.
100% better.
We wanted to do that. Exactly.
So if there is a line at a kiosk getting your keys, you could go swipe in.
So there's going to be a couple different kiosks, so they're not all bottlenecked in one location. So we try to take that into consideration and put a good number over here in this side of the house and over there, because we didn't want that to be a factor. And honestly, if something happens, we think this is not working, or if we have some bumps in the road, we'll make accommodations in the beginning until we get adjusted and figure things out. We're really trying to make sure though, and we've watched.
We've actually got three different key kiosks over in Copperton area along with 3 time clocks. So
They're in the same room, so you
Yeah,
can
it's
clock
all
in and
gonna
then
be right
get
there.
to
it's going to be right beside it.
Yes, it's going to be step by step through. We tried to look at everything, Josh, but if something was missed, we'll certainly.
I'm sorry, I had a question.
I have a question, is this that I put my key back in the same spot all the time?
We actually had that option of deciding that, we determined that people are creatures of habit, so it made most sense for them to just
Still the same place.
Yeah, and it will only let you put it back in your spot. It won't let you stick it in another slot in the box.
So this bracelet is something you can take home and bring in.
Yes.
And so someone can take that bracelet and get some doors.
But they wouldn't be able to get through the entire facility because it only gets you through the front area. And then they'd be locked in.
It's not like an HEC key where you can get through the whole hospital.
No, it's not, yeah, exactly.
So if you enter from one door versus another one, you still have the keys on the other side also? Or you have to enter from the same door every time? Both sides would have the keys?
If there's multiple doors, I have a part of the way out. The other, I don't know, disconnectors, hostage taking, it's like, I'm with you, I'm really down with it.
My key works on the other area.
You hostage taking now?
Yeah.
You hostage taking now, I mean, it's the same.
Yeah, you know, when we did our hazard vulnerability assessment on the races in this organization, the top rated risk was that they can overpower staff and take these. And, you know, we had Homeland Security here saying the same thing, and for years they've been saying that. So we experienced that.
I'm glad you didn't do a retinal scan so they don't pull my eyeball out.
Who's going to be the controller of the keys?
The actual physical key or the key kiosks?
The kiosks.
It's going to be a combination, you know, but it's the locksmith that takes the responsibility. They'll have the established, what do you call it, matrix identified, so we'll have a matrix for keys and distribution. You could speak up anytime.
The access control, somebody mentioned, I think it might be a little confusion, was for me. You'll be identified a door to enter and exit. You can exit and enter any door, but your keys only be located in the designated entry point. So if you enter door 1, you're not going to go get your keys at door 4. So door 1 will have administrative keys, cabinets set up for contractors, students, administrative staff in the swing that's identified, and then door 4 will have 3 kiosks that will identify all direct care staff. So you can enter and exit here. You still have to don your keys at your designated spot. So the overseer of the key cabinets, ultimately locksmith is going to have to be the governor of all the actual physical keys. He will share the oversight with the IT director, safety officer, chief, and operational. So the locksmith, there's going to be kind of a full redundant system that will all be alerted if anybody forgets a key, will be alerted. So there'll be a learning curve of, we feel, we're kind of guesstimating about a 90-day learning curve for everybody. So like, even though there's going to be a new policy, new key matrix, all this new technology in-house, we're going to give anywhere from 3 to 6 months of staff learning new habits. So nobody will be held accountable, so to speak, for maybe forgetting the key. You will be notified if you walk out with the keys. That's the whole point of having the IT director, the locksmith, the safety officer, the police department, the operators maybe even, where you can contact them and say, hey, you need to bring your key back.
Will it fit a Vocera in there along
No.
with the keys?
So we designed just the keys and your access control.
Thank you.
So it was designed, somebody mentioned hostage, because that's a hot topic, you know, when people get a little, hyper-vigilant about safety in these kind of environments with clientele we have. It's a redundant system. This was kind of designed back in 2017 to be done by me, and then that kind of went away and back to capital and kind of ended up going extreme with what we could do with it. So your access control, like Bob or Andre has mentioned, you'll be able to come into the door 4 area or here, access your keys. You'll have a redundant system of a bracelet to go through access doors, identified based on your level. So there's going to be a uniqueness to the culture in this organization for 50, 100 years. There's going to be a lot of staff that's going to be eliminated from going in certain areas. That may be areas that you've been going through for 25 years of your career with an HE key, or God forbid you have a master key nobody knows about it, which is topical. But anyway, turn over there, you're gonna be, that's probably gonna be the biggest culture shock, and there's no 90-day, 6-month learning curve on that. It'll happen, boom, right away. So, you know, the locksmith's responsible, along with the safety and security committee, you go around and assess leadership with their department structure on who's, you know, got access and what levels that you want. But yeah, this uniqueness of everybody having access everywhere is gonna come to a halt. Yeah, and that's driven by, you know, central office has recognized it, we've recognized it as an organization that we've got to improve that better overall. So that I want to share with you, that's going to be a big culture shock for a lot of staff that, you know, for years they get to come and go wherever they want. And, you know, out of fairness for certain departments, only those people that work there need access, or maybe just a housekeeper on the outside or a maintenance office, you know, personnel, that's it. You know, where now a lot of people can come and go in areas that, you know, so I guess there's going to be some healthy safety, security boundaries put in place. So hostage situations, the redundancy of having a bracelet for access control. North Coast went to that. They did have access control cards. And what they found when we did a survey with them up there a couple years ago, and their $60 million new wing, is they said people were piggybacking. So people were losing or forgetting access control cards, you know, those HID type cards, you might have seen someone else. And what had happened is they would piggyback on everybody else to get in and out. And they found out that this was occurring for weeks at a time, and nobody ever reported they lost their card, you know, or forgot it. So that breaches your security real quick. So what they recognized, they had to find an alternative. So they're the ones I'll give credit to that came up with the wristband concept, and we adopted that for our staff here. So you have the wristband, you'll have the key, security key in your possession, so it's full redundancy. Somebody mentioned hostage situation. So, but I'm talking direct care. So the patient, if they want to overtake you, which I believe, I'll be fair to you guys, this just happened at Athens. That's how that Forensic 1 police hold guy escaped and still on the lam. That's how that happened. Overpowered a male TPW in the gym and fled. So out of fairness, what we did is we came up with the concept that they're going to have to rip your, literally, I'm going to be very graphic, they're going to have to rip your wristband off and overwhelm you to get your keys in both items. Now, they can go anywhere in this direct care area, but they're never going to get outside, because what we did as a third layer is we pinned the exit doors. And only you know your PIN number. God forbid you share them and you let other people use it, you know, we'll address that. But so it gives 3 layers before a patient can overwhelm a staff member and escape this facility. Sounds ridiculous, but in all reality, you guys voiced that ever since I've been here. I've heard that little pockets, and people fear that whole hostage kind of thing, or being overtaken by, you know, a violent client, and that could happen. So we designed it for hopefully, it's not impervious at all, but it should be very successful to eliminate that possibility. Any questions on that?
How long is the pin?
PIN number, probably designed as a 4-digit, well, I don't know, maybe 12 feet long, Josh, I don't know. That's carried around your top. 25 How many do you want? You want 20 digits?
No, 4 is good. That'll be 4 is good, I can remember.
I would say it's somewhere going to be 4 and 6. 4 is good.
Thank you. Any other questions about that? Tracy?
First of all, it sounds like we're not going to have that many keys then, right? Because
No.
you can access most places with the bracelet.
Yep.
So like office keys.
Yeah, your key ring, what most of you hold now, you might average like 6 keys, some maybe average 8 or 10. You're going to go down to maybe 1 or 2 keys. That's it. Most staff outside of maintenance operations, police, and some leadership, your keys, you might have 1 key on your ring or 2. Yeah, the key maintenance is designed on Joe and Eva, and I. Corrections has it mapped out where you just have really sometimes 1 key you can get in multiple privileges.
And was there a reason we couldn't just swipe a badge, which would be a good...
Yeah, because what North Coast discovered with their issues up there, it was pretty kind of prolific of what was going on up there. And so out of fairness, we kind of took best practice of what they had to really struggle and figured out, and then we used their best practice going to the wristband.
But it sounded like they were using like a generic badge.
No, they were using the security, HID type badge, digital badge, to kind of scan it and walk in, and it just didn't work. There was a higher probability that could be dropped, lost, now you have a patient with it, and you don't know where it went. I know your medical records office, like HR, we've identified certain areas of high priority. You'll have access control on your doors. HR will, pharmacy doors. So there's certain identified areas that are high risk, high security areas that'll have access control. And then privilege will be granted in your area based on just your staff or your leader above, and that's it. Yeah, so that's kind of how, if you can envision how that's going. Medical, pharmacy, each units, those will only be identified to the privileged nursing staff or pharmacists only, so.
So, but we'll still have all the locked doors that won't decrease, like some of the
No, we're not
extra
going
locked
to
doors that we have.
eliminate doors or opening up doors with just free ingress. No, it'll kind of stay the same, yeah.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions? Thanks, Tracy.
Well, since the subject was broached about a hostage situation, I can't help but think about the situation we had a couple of years ago. Staying in this vein of safety, are we going to start enforcing the use of the locker room?
Good question. And that's actually something we,
If you're worried about weapons and hostage taking and all that stuff on the units, we need to enforce the use of the lockers.
I was actually just having a conversation with Mike about this, talking about what happened a couple years ago and the steps that we took to prevent those things from happening again. And the inception of the locker room was specifically because the patient overtook the staff member on the unit and took their keys and was able to get out and use their personal vehicle.
Keys, cell phones, walkie-talkies, personal keys, purses,
Yes.
all that stuff.
All that stuff. So, one of the things that the chief and the safety officer are looking at in conjunction with our clinical nurse managers is doing restricted items tours. And part of that process, what Mike and I were talking about today, was looking at not just the restricted items, but also what staff's bringing in to the areas as well. So we're going to take a look at that.
So I'd like to ask, since Ken brought it up, and what Keith was saying is kind of try to open engagement, two-way engagement conversation. Out of fairness, anybody want to talk about that? Do you feel that's important to you guys and your safety if anybody's worked the unit or works full-time on the units? Like, do you think it's important to inspect nurses' stations and ensure that those items are not being brought in? I mean,
I thought too, with the new reconfiguration, that it was gonna be like a break room on the unit for staff. Because I think some people have complained, I'm just gonna throw this out there, that it's so far away from the units for the locker room and all that kind of stuff, and that was, one of the, bones of contention. But, like you said, just from us getting.
5-minute window.
Say that again?
If you're at the opposite corner with a 5-minute window, you feel like you
That was some, but, like you said, thank you, Josh. It was, where that was part of it too, but like you said, when we just moved D2 to C2, you could walk over there now and you would see that I had a whole glass casserole bowl, and nobody claimed it because it's still in my office, but I'm like, it's not mine. So we're moving away from it again, like Ken said, and you gotta be careful because people can push through doors that, we didn't think that would happen, but it did. So you want to be mindful of that. And I have, like I said, a stuff over there in my office that folk have never claimed because it's contraband. Like, how did this get back in here? Whose is this? And nobody just came to claim it, not a soul.
Did you
I think Ken, you're talking about people bringing their keys and all of that stuff, or is it not so much their lunch that they can put in a break room, but.
Cell phone versus.
Yeah.
I mean, lunch, yeah, the new design of the project will have some spaces for lunch. You can bring your lunch back in there and have that space.
But not your car keys and all of that.
Yeah, this piece about what Josh mentioned about the 5 minutes seems to be maybe a little bit more of a root cause here. We don't have the flexibility with that, right? That's it.
That's statewide.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's NHAS policy on that.
We have the benefit that the company's so nice here, they let us put our breaks with the lunch. And that gives you more time.
Yeah, but in the morning, what you're talking about is the morning break, you can just
Yeah.
clock in, right? And having to go to the locker room and then having to go to the unit.
Well, as long as they're clocking in on time, couldn't we give them that little bit of flexibility they needed to get to their work area?
Well, report doesn't start till 5 past, so they clock in before, so they haven't, we don't start report at 7, it's always 5 past. It's given 5 minutes to get to the unit.
Yes, I thought the 5-minute thing was statewide as far as time and swiping in, but as long as they've swiped in on time, I don't see why we couldn't give them that flexibility to go to the locker room and still get down to the unit, even if it takes them 7 or 8 minutes.
Well, because we have 20 minutes to get through a report on 20-plus people, that's not giving you a very thorough report.
That's true too.
Because we have to be on the floor at 25 after to relieve the staff that's leaving. So if we start at 5 after and have to be on the floor at 25 after, it's literally 20 minutes for 20-plus people of report.
So the location of the locker room is the issue.
Can they put the
You shouldn't have to
lockers?
go through 2, 3, 4, 5 locked doors to get to the locker room, clear over by CNO to go clear back down to D1 door. Why can't the locker room be a place where you clock in, where you get your keys,
Yeah, that
put
would
your
be
stuff,
more
you go to
like
your
the conference room,
Like
and
the
I'm
key,
just saying that
key.
conference room, where everything's right there, you come in the door, put your stuff up.
Shouldn't be tracked across the hospital.
Well, that's why we're talking about it.
That would be more feasible.
Or can you put some of the lockers, like in the break room that you're making from that other room? They don't want you
With
We're trying to get away from
Human lockers are put-
But I do want to.
We talked a little bit about cubicles and maybe not like a visitation space. There was some conversation about only using half that room for visitation space, maybe leaving the other half for offices, but maybe the other half should use something for this purpose. Because it's a big giant space.
But the offices in the locker room we have now. Offices don't need to be located near an exit door.
This is good. I like it. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? All right, guys, thank you.